All right. As a senior architect, I've seen projects thrive and I've seen them crash and burn. And a lot of the time, it comes down to their foundations. So today, we're going to talk about a foundational skill that, frankly, separates the junior developers from the seasoned pros, managing your application's configuration.
So let's start with this single line of code. I mean, come on. I bet every single one of you has written something just like this, probably a dozen times, right? You're just calling a Backend API from your local machine to test out a new feature. Seems simple enough, but in a real-world system, this line of code is a ticking time bomb. It looks totally innocent, I get it, but it is the root cause of so many production emergencies. Okay, let's dive in and I'll show you why. First things first, it is absolutely crucial to understand that we are always dealing with two completely different types of URLs. You've got the page URL, right? That's what the user actually types into their browser to see your amazing UI. And then you have the API URL. That's the backend endpoint where your front end is actually sending and getting data. They are not the same thing. Now, in any modern app, you don't just have one big backend. You've got a whole bunch of microservices. So your front end needs to know the correct address for the auth service, the profile service, the admin service, every single one. All of a sudden, that simple one-line fetch is looking a little bit naive, isn't it?
And here is where things really start to get chaotic. We don't just build code for our own laptops. An average project, and I mean average, has at least 5 different environments it's going to run in, from your local setup all the way to the live production server that real customers are using. And just take a look at this. The exact same API has a completely different URL depending on the environment. On your local machine, sure, it's localhost. But on the quality assurance server, it's something like qa.kodakiki.com. And in production, it's the real deal, api.kodakiki.com.
So, here's the crucial point. If you hard-coded that localhost URL, what happens when you need to deploy to the QA server? Well, you now have to manually hunt down and replace that URL in every single file. I promise you, some poor intern has suffered through this, and let me tell you, it is a recipe for disaster.
The professional solution is to stop hard-coding things, period. Instead, we create one central configuration file. You can think of it like a remote control for your whole application. Your code doesn't talk directly to a server, it looks at the config file, and that file points it to the right server for whatever environment it's in.
And this means you create a separate, really simple config file for each environment. The dev config, well, that lists all your localhost URLs, and the production config lists all the live api.kodakiki.com URLs. See? It's all neatly organized in one spot.
Now, look at your code. It's so clean. It doesn't have a single hard-coded URL in it. It just references a variable from that central config file. This piece of code is now universal. It is completely environment agnostic.
And this, right here, this is the goal. This is the whole point. The exact same line of code can call your local server when you're developing, and then call the live production server after it's deployed, with absolutely zero changes to the code itself. That is how you build robust, maintainable software. And using a central config, it's not just a convenience. It solves so many critical problems. It makes switching environments trivial. It routes requests to the right microservice. It makes your deployments infinitely safer. And it even helps you control things like logging, which makes debugging way easier.
Okay, so this leads us to the most important, practical question of all. How does this magic actually happen? How do we automatically connect our code to the correct configuration file when we build and deploy it? The answer lies in a standard industry practice called branch-based deployment. The core idea is actually really simple. The Git branch that you're working on is directly tied to a specific environment. Your branch tells the entire system which configuration it needs to use.
Now, there are a few ways to actually do this. Big enterprise companies might use runtime configs, or the CI/CD pipeline, that's your automated build system, might inject the config. But for now, let's just focus on the most common and practical approach you're going to see every day using .env files. The concept here is just so straightforward. You have these simple text files in your project, named something like .env.development or .env.production, and these files just hold the key value pairs for that specific environment's configuration. That's it. So your dev file will have the localhost URL, and your prod file will have the live API URL. When you go to build the application, your deployment pipeline is smart. It intelligently picks the correct .env file based on the branch, making sure the right URLs get baked into the final code.
This right here gives you a complete mental model of a professional workflow. As you can see, a feature branch that deploys to the dev environment and uses the dev config. The QA branch that goes to the QA server with the QA config. And finally, the main branch deploys to production using the production config. It's clean, it's predictable, and most importantly, it's safe.
Look, if you take away only one thing from all of this, let it be this simple model right here. Your application code should always stay the same. It's the configuration that changes to match the environment that it's running in.
And I'm sharing this because, trust me, I have seen this happen more times than I can even count. A junior developer hardcodes a localhost URL, it somehow slips through and gets into production, and all of a sudden the entire company is scrambling to debug a critical outage. Proper configuration is not a nice-to-have. It is a fundamental, non-negotiable skill.
So, the next time you sit down to write a network request, ask yourself this question. Are you building a robust, professional application that is built to last, or are you planting the next bug that's going to take down production? The choice is yours.